Hello everybody, and welcome back to Downbelow Developer Discussion. I'm Steve.
I'm Ian.
And today Ian is going to cover the system side of tracking the needs for the Gumshoe campaign setting we talked about briefly yesterday.
So, there is actually an RPG called Gumshoe.
This is true.
And we took inspiration from those mechanics when designing the system that we use for this system, in that the investigation system in Gumshoe also can be done without dice.
And should be done without dice.
Generally speaking, does not use the dice and simply applies your skills and knowledges that apply to the investigation, and if you have the right skill, then you get the information associated with that skill.
For a full overview, go check them out. They're pretty awesome. Then come back and watch the rest of this video. Go ahead. We'll wait.
Well, actually, we'll keep going, and you can pause the video.
There you go.
Because YouTube is magic that way. So, the difference with our system is that you can choose to succeed or fail as the player. But when running an investigation, and you're going to do that as the core activity in a Gumshoe-focused campaign, you should remember that you can give players information, succeed or fail.
And this is an important part because we've asked this question in developer discussions before. If I'm given the option to always succeed, why would I ever choose to fail?
So, in the case of the Gumshoe-oriented campaign, you should have some information that you give that's different based on success or failure.
Yep.
But you should always give the players a clue to go forward. If they fail on a task, you should give them the kind of information they get when they have run into a wall and they end up getting beat up, or having some other thing slip away from them, but they get a clue from a different angle. Whereas if they succeed, they should get the expected clue that they were working towards.
Looking at this mechanically and drawing a parallel with some classic movies and film and books of the past, in a hardboiled detective novel in the Mallory genre, what would often happen is if the Sam Spade character got a success, they would move on to the next scene in the nightclub because they had successfully talked to an informant or tracked down information pointing them towards the fact that their target was in this nightclub. On a failure, they might have found out about the nightclub because they've just been beat up by a bunch of goons, one of which dropped a matchbook with the nightclub's name on it.
Or who dragged them to the nightclub.
Alternately, if they happen to be in a fight scene, a success might mean that they knock out the goons attacking them, and while going through their pockets they find the address of the nightclub, and a failure might mean, well, guess who's getting dragged to the nightclub?
So, that being said, there is not going to be a progress track based on success or failure in the Gumshoe game. Rather, the progress track is going to be based on clues given out. And you're going to want to track a starts at 0 and reaches a number that will say it's time for a climactic confrontation now.
Yep.
Based on how much of the mystery has been revealed based on clues given out through both successes and failures.
It's also important to note that the difference between a mystery game and a Gumshoe game, in a mystery game, or a game that has mysteries, the mystery is fairly important. In a Gumshoe game, though, the story really isn't about the mystery. The story is about the people, places, and developments found while pursuing the mystery. Again, just watch any of the hard-boiled noir movies. They're not about actually solving the crime. It's important that the tension of the crime and the mystery stay there. It's about the atmosphere, the people, and the interactions.
So if you're doing a client-based Gumshoe game, then you get to use the 0 and goes positive or negative track for client relationship. Positive means that your client is helpful and thinks you're doing a good job. Negative is the opposite. And this is basically straight up influenced by whether you get your clues through successes or failures. Because if you get your clues through failures, then the client thinks you're a screw-up and bad at your job, even though you're making progress. And if you get your clues through successes, then you look good doing it.
Even if you're not making as quick progress as you would have through failures.
So This doesn't apply as much if you have the cause-based sort of gumshoe mystery, but you can apply it instead to a general perception of your actions if you want to use it that way, because the cause, you're generally going to have other people who are affected by this mystery that you've chosen to investigate, and so if that public opinion track that it turns into at that point, that peanut gallery track sort of, goes positive, then people who realize that you're investigating this mystery think that you looking into it is a good idea, and they might help you out. They certainly won't get in your way. But if it goes negative, let's say in that these 3 blocks that we hang out in and that are important to us example, if it goes negative, then the other residents of those blocks are going to be like, why are you not just leaving well enough alone? You're making it worse by prying into this. We're getting harassed. Get out of here.
Another thing you can use the same tracker for is tracking, well, honestly, the good and bad. If it gets low enough, then the bad thing that you're afraid of happens, and you don't have the information to stop it. If it gets high enough, then the bad thing that you're afraid of is about to happen regardless, but at that point you will be primed and ready to try to do something about it.
And that's a status in relation to the opposition, especially in a cause-based gumshoe game. And that really is the last kind of tracker that I was going to mention for this sort of game. Specific resources for any given organization or group, not really the most important thing for this kind of game, because
they'd be tracked as you would for any other game, really.
And really, they're not the most important thing to track. Information is key, and just looking at it as who knows what in the story and what is going to happen next based on who knows what.
Yep.
So for the characters, you are going to be looking at characters with a lot of information gathering skills for this style of game. This is very much a buy-in sort of thing, because it's not set up by, well, you wouldn't be in this role unless.
Right.
It's more set up by, you have to be the type of character who is interested in pursuing this, because we're turning the camera towards people who are looking into this. This is much more flexible on what type of traits should be allowed for player characters, because if they want to play the bruiser, who the only way that they have to investigate the situation is by punching their way through anybody who seems involved until they talk, that can be a legitimate part of, especially a group of PC gumshoes. Just remember that you're going to be doing a lot of investigating in this game style, and the players should be ready for that, and they should make characters who are interested in doing that, even if their traits are actually kind of inappropriate at first, and they'll have the opportunity to change those later if they want.
There you go.
So thanks for falling through the cracks with us, and next time we'll introduce our next topic in this series. And once again, I'm Ian.
I'm Steve.
And we'll see you tomorrow.